Hello, everyone. Hopefully, you are coming in. Hopefully, wherever you are, it's not too hot or not too stormy. But I am happy to start our first ever book party on Instagram Live. So, on our Scholastic account, we're going to interview authors each month and their new releases, and about their new releases. So, we have three really great guests for us today. So, I am checking in on who is available to come in for our guests. We have three really great books. I'll show them off here. We've got Josephine and the Sea. We've got Linked and LALA'S Words. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming in. Just waiting for our authors to come and join our chat. In the meantime, let us know where you're coming from. Hello from Toronto. We're gonna just see where our authors are, but let me know in the comments where you're from. We'll be taking questions at some point, so feel free to post and drop them in the chat. I think Gracey's joining us. Let's see. Hi, Nebraska.
Hi.
Illinois. Hi, Gracey. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Excellent. I'm just welcoming our viewers and waiting for our two friends to join us for the chat today. How are you so far today?
I am great. I just came out of the shower because it was so hot in New York today.
It's so hot.
I was like,
yes,
can I get away?
Where are you?
I'm in Brooklyn right now.
Hi, Gordon.
Hi.
Hi, how's it going?
Great. We're just, chatting about how hot it is in a lot of the United States right now. Where are you currently?
I am not too far from you. I'm just outside New York City.
Great.
On Long Island, so it's pretty hot here too.
Yeah, it's either hot or really stormy. So we're just, welcoming
or a bit of both.
To the chat, or a bit of both. The humidity is nuts. So while we wait for Shakirah to join us, she's our third guest today. I would like to ask you guys to introduce yourselves and what your book is. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I was like, who should go first? Hi, I'm Gracey Zhang, and I am originally from Coquitlam, Canada, the West Coast, but I now live in New York. LALA'S Words is my debut picture book, both writing and illustrating. Yeah, and it had its book birthday yesterday, so it is available at your local bookstore.
So yes, we're here to celebrate your book birthday. Gordon's is a bit later this month, but do you want to talk about Linked?
Yeah, absolutely. So I also have to, while we're doing our Canada shout outs, I'm from Canada too. I'm
yes,
a
Canada.
native Montrealer. I grew up in the Toronto area, and now I live just outside New York City. But Linked is actually the very, very personal story to me. It's the story of kids responding to a school where they discover, to their shock and amazement, that their school has been sort of the victim of racist vandalism. Someone has vandalized their school with a swastika, and the kids come up with a plan to sort of fight against that by creating the world's longest paper chain. In fact, a paper chain 6 million links in length, in sort of memorial and as a tribute to the 6 million victims of the Holocaust.
That's amazing. We have been joined by Shakirah.
Hello, everyone. Happy book birthday.
Hi.
Yes. And we were just going around and saying who you are and what your book is. So it's your turn.
Oh, okay. I can just type.
Sorry to jump you right in.
So I am Shakirah Bourne. I'm a Barbadian author living in Barbados, and my book, Josephine Against the Sea, came out yesterday. It's about 11-year-old Jo, who is very overprotective of her dad since her mom died. And so she creates booby traps to scare all his dates away. And she thinks that by getting onto the school's cricket team will distract him from dating, but the coach is adamant that girls are not allowed to play cricket. So before she can execute this plan, her dad brings home a new catch, Maurice, and unlike the others, she does not scare easily. So Josephine knows there's something fishy about Maurice, but she never expected that Maurice would not be human. So this story is full of adventure and mystery, and it's inspired by Caribbean folklore, and it addresses themes like overcoming grief, and I hope everybody picks it up and enjoys it.
Yeah. This is great. This is our first book party because we want to celebrate your book birthdays. So first of all, a round of applause for everyone's book who came out yesterday.
Yay!
Yay! A pre-clap for
Also,
Gordon, who's coming out
I
later
noticed
this month.
we have 2 Canadians and a Barbadian, so
I know,
we've got a
like,
good
that's
rhyme.
cool.
I'm the only Native American United States person here. That's
Yay,
fun.
international.
We want to bring the Western Hemisphere all together. So I just want to know, like, your inspirations for each of your books. Gordon, you can start. You mentioned that it's inspired by, the Holocaust and a lot of serious topics and sort of, a violent, like an event happening in a school where kids have to sort of deal with it. Can you tell us more about your book?
Exactly. So my main inspiration was the Paperclips project, which is a true story of a school in Tennessee. It's a while back now, but I think it was maybe in the early 2000s or maybe the late 90s. That as they were doing a unit on tolerance and studying the Holocaust, and they got the idea that to sort of wrap their minds around the number 6 million. They wanted to try to collect 6 million of something. So this middle school in a very, very small isolated town in Tennessee, in the same county where the KKK was originally formed way back, actually set out to collect 6 million paper clips, and it was a sort of a voyage of discovery. In the end, a tremendous success, and not only did they succeed, they actually collected, I believe, 30 million paper clips in the end. But they also created a museum as part of their collection. It sort of houses their collection in a real Nazi rail car from the Second World War that they had shipped over, all by donations, and the incredible impression that that these middle school kids in Tennessee kind of created to donors all around the world, on all continents, and just looking at that story and sort of, being someone who writes a lot about like middle graders and middle school, and sort of seeing how something that could start out, so small can end up so widespread. So yeah, it's a story about tolerance and about social justice and about racism, but it's also just a story about how regular kids in a regular school can accomplish something truly astounding.
That's amazing. The paper clips are on view at this museum in Tennessee.
Pardon me, I'm sorry.
The paper clips are on display at the museum.
So on the grounds of the school, they've created this museum. I believe it's called a monument or a memorial. But the rail car is actually the building. That they managed to get the rail car there, and that houses, I believe, 11 million of the 30 million paper clips, representing the 6 million Jewish and 5 million non-Jewish victims of the Holocaust. And it's just an incredible, remarkable sort of place.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I'm so excited for everyone to get to experience this story. I think right now it's really important as kids are sort of dealing with these kinds of issues in their schools and trying to do something about it. So that's really great. Shakirah, would you like to tell us a little bit more about your inspiration for your story? You've mentioned it's inspired by Caribbean folklore. Is there a particular nasty creature that we are inspired by, or is that a spoiler? I don't know. And if you could all say what grade level your stories are for our audience, that would be great. Gordon, middle grade, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Sorry, you caught me grabbing a drink of water.
No, it's fine. I got mine too. It's too hot to not have water. Drink your water, guys. Go ahead, Shakirah.
So mine is middle grade. That is 8 to 12 years old. I'm not sure what grades exactly that is. But I have always loved scary stories growing up, these folklore stories. And because we have a tradition of oral storytelling here in the Caribbean, they were never really written down. So these are stories that my grandmother and my aunties would have told me. But I have always had a love for the ocean and what could potentially be underneath, laying underneath. You know, 80%. 80% of the ocean has been undiscovered, so we don't know.
It's huge down there.
Exactly, we don't know.
I don't like it.
So when I was 12 in English class, we actually read a story about a fisherman who became obsessed with a mermaid. And that was the first time I actually saw our Caribbean story written down. It was a creature called a river mama, and she is enchanting. And if you find her comb, you can get prosperity. But in other countries, in other Caribbean countries, she has all these different manifestations that are not so nice. Some could be deadly. So I was able to I just wanted to create a story about this mermaid creature, but have it Barbadian based. And in that story, the fisherman he just disappeared, and he or the mermaid was never seen again. Ooh. And I was like, what happened to what happened to this mermaid and this fisherman? And did his family go to look for him? And so Josephine Against the Sea is kind of my reimagination of what may have happened after that story ended.
That's amazing. That's really cool. Your main character, and I believe it's Michael in Linked, or is it Lincoln?
Well, Link is the main character, short for Lincoln.
Yeah, there's the tricksters. Both of your books have like a trickster type person. Link, I believe, goes to the school, and that's where he discovers the swastika, or was that Michael?
Right. Well, Michael actually discovered, but Link is sort of a notorious practical joker in their school. Is constantly finding himself in trouble for some various statement he's making. That their town is sort of famous for a dinosaur dig that was actually inspired by what they first found was, well, I mean, to be blunt, like dinosaur poop. Like they found a gigantic deposit of fossilized dinosaur poop. So
Kids
there's a lot
that.
of, so they decide to go to like the paleontology office and just, Link dumps a 60-pound bag of, manure-based fertilizer that's sort of representing the dinosaur poop. So he kind of spends a lot of the story in trouble for his various pranks and jokes and tricks and things. I think I love that chance in a book for a kid to sort of start out, as kind of like nothing's better than a laugh. Nothing's better than just being that class clown. And then
Josephine's
sort of
the same
slowly fight
Gordon,
his way to the realization that there are more important things in the world.
Josephine and Link would so get along. I'm telling you, they would be chaotic together.
Josephine likes to pull tricks on her dad's dates, and I enjoyed seeing there's like a double trickster, and kids will love a laugh. Hopefully no parents are like, hey, my kid decided to pull this prank on his fellow students. And Gracey, LALA'S Words. Tell us about this very sweet and beautifully drawn picture book. It's gotten so much praise, and it's just so sweet.
Oh, thank you. So the picture book, it was inspired by the first relationship I ever had, the one with my mother, and how those first relationships and how you are spoken to or cared for, it carries on a pattern within yourself of how you chose to express love and nurture and feelings. And sometimes it takes someone to break a pattern of unhealthy behavior to kind of restart the cycle of love. But and so it's a story about a mother and daughter and how important speaking kindly to each other is.
Yeah, that's a great theme for all of these books and for kids to sort of absorb,
Mm-hmm.
especially yours is a picture book, and to absorb that early.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in the age of cyberbullying and all that stuff, like your words
Yeah.
matter, and they really
Mm-hmm.
help other people, and it's really great to like watch what you say because it can affect everything around you, even flowers and plants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, how you illustrated this book as well.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the questions in the chat from Lana Studio Picks is, how do you go from an idea to a more detailed outline of your story? And I want to add on to that, like you had to come up, was this always a picture book that you were going to illustrate? Like what was the process from getting from,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the idea in your head to it being a full picture book that you were illustrating?
I think I've always wanted it to be a picture book. I think
Mm-hmm.
not just for children, but I would say even for adults. Most children's introduction into picture books is from an adult reading to them. And when an
Mm-hmm.
adult reads to a child, hopefully they can take in that lesson as well. And so I wrote this as a picture book really for adults. But it's a lesson I think adults need more than children. But in terms of going from an idea to an outline, I think for me, I saw it visually very quickly. Like I had an idea of how I wanted it to look, like certain scenes, and then the rest was just making sure all the pieces fit well together.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Gordon and Shakirah, did you ever like, do you have a big visual of what your story and your characters look like?
You know, I see my characters. I see their personalities well, and I hear them really well. Like I hear their dialogue and then the way they talk to each other and interact. I don't actually like see their faces super specifically. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
don't like go to popular movies and TV shows and be like, oh, that's that guy.
Yeah.
Um,
Fan casting your own book.
you know, and I think it's also kind of like, you know when it's wrong. You like you have a very very clear picture in your mind, not necessarily visually exactly what the lines of your character's face are going to look like, but you know when something is not right.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. What about you,
Shakira?
Shakirah? You're a
So
filmmaker, correct?
yeah, I was just
Yeah,
about to say, like, my background is in filmmaking, so the visual
that's
storytelling
all it
aspect
is.
is very
That's the
important to me.
main
So
part. Yeah.
I was kind of picturing how this book would happen as a movie, and I actually, because I was picturing that, I had people in mind, not celebrities, but people I know around me, my friends and
Mm-hmm.
family. So they
Oh,
were
sweet.
acting out, they were who I was envisioning the story to be about. So it was about, having that same movie type structure where I wanted it fast paced, I wanted it to be
Mm-hmm.
exciting. But then because it's a book, I have the additional bonus of actually having dialogue. So,
Yeah.
and being able to describe, I'd have a little bit more description. So I really got the best of both worlds, going from an idea to an outline with this book.
Yeah, Shakira,
Yeah.
your characters like on the page like speak in Caribbean dialect. What was that
Yes.
like? And was that ever a concern for like making sure that kids are understanding? Like, I don't think they should have a problem,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you know, like how did you decide to translate
Hmm.
certain like oral phrases that
Yeah.
are not necessarily like consistently spelled the same way and
Yes.
all that stuff? Like, how did you approach the dialect in the dialogue in the book?
So yeah, so there's no way I could set this book in Barbados and not have any Barbadian dialects in it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be authentic. But what I do is that I have my own way of writing dialect where I focus on the rhythm of the sentence rather than the spelling. I use
Mm.
a lot of contextual cues. So even if you don't understand the word, you would understand what is going on in the story from the context. And I use a rhythm. So I focus a lot on sentence structure. So I read the language out loud. And so in my mind, when a Caribbean person reads it, they will hear the dialect, and they will automatically translate in
Yeah.
their heads. But then when someone from outside of the Caribbean reads it, they would just get a standard English, but with a little bit of flavor.
Yeah. For Gracey, your book is a picture book, so they're typically read out loud. Is there any kind of like Was there any thought that you had to that as you were building the book for it to be a, you said, you know, you built it for adults who are typically reading these books to kids. Like, what was that process in making sure it was like a good read aloud book?
Yeah, I actually, so I said it's based on my, and so it's very literally like the mother is my mother. And I was picturing her voice when I was writing it. But it's so funny because I've gotten a lot of feedback and a lot of comments were like, the mother's very mean. And I was like, no, that's my mom. Like, I grew up, that was just how she was. Like, that's, and I was thinking back and I was realizing there was also a language barrier. Like what my mom said to me wasn't necessarily mean in her head. It was just her being very direct and being like, do this, do that, don't do that. Whereas for some other kids, when they overheard that, they were like, ooh, your mom's kind of strict. And I was like, no, like you're saying, like, you're seeing the nice lady right now. Yeah, you haven't seen the real mother. So it's interesting because I think I did want to reflect a bit of that, but rather it seems like her intentions were very simplified in the text. I guess the term broken English, but it's more her own English, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's not broken. You just got to understand.
Yeah. It's a different language.
Just a different
language.
dialect.
Yeah.
You just have to, you know,
a language spoken between mother and daughter.
Right. It's not broken. They all have their own, you know, grammar and sentence structure and all that stuff. So it's not broken.
Yeah.
Are there any, like, this is for all three of you, are there any like cute Easter eggs in your book? So, you know, for Links, it takes place like based on a real town. Are there like things that you included in that? Josephine, if there's, you know, just any like peaks of other types of Caribbean characters or mythology included, like anyone can go first. What did you slip in there that you hope someone spots? Anybody?
Okay, I'll go first. I have a ton of Easter eggs in Josephine Against the Sea, a ton, and that's because when I was revising the book, I got an idea for a sequel. So I went back and I put in all of these little seeds. And there is one in the last chapter that no reader or reviewer so far has.
Yet.
No, and I just love it. I also have all the names of the kids are renamed after children in my life, and that's because I want them to be able to read the book and see their name in it, because I never really read a book with the name Shakirah.
Shakirah, right? Yeah.
So I would be thrilled if I ever saw it. And the name of the grandma in particular is my friend's grandma who passed. And when she read the book, I didn't tell her I was doing it. And when she read the book, she just called me crying, because she was like, that's my grandma, that's my grandma. And I found that really sweet. And, you know, it's just for her. It's not for anyone else. But
yeah,
there are a lot of little Easter eggs like that throughout the book.
I love that.
Yeah.
In Link.
Gracey?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Gordon.
No, I was going to say, it's not, I wouldn't exactly call it an Easter egg in the conventional sense, but in Link, the cause of their paper chain is kind of taken over by a sort of a questionably semi-sleazy YouTuber / vlogger named Real Talk. And I think, you know, he was sort of inspired by, or sort of an amalgam of, all the YouTubers my three kids ever followed, like in their lives. You know, how many times it was like, oh, Dad, you got to watch this video. And you watch this thing and it's like, okay, whatever. And then you look down and it's like, this has been viewed 167 million times.
Like, why? Oh.
Yeah, we in the book business are kind of blown away by numbers like 167 million.
Right.
That show up on TikTok all the time. So he was definitely Real Talk was definitely inspired by just watching YouTube videos and TikToks with my kids.
Yeah, you got to include, you know, stuff from real life, and that's what kids are into these days. So it helps to make it so that kids know that it's really about them and it's their world.
Right. Well, but also when you think about
20 years ago.
Yeah, but also when you think about 6 million of something, you know, like there's no way that these kids are going to be able to do this on their own. So I knew that just from a sheer like plotting standpoint, they're going to need help. They would need they would need someone to take their cause and make it famous, so that donations of lengths of chain are coming in from all over the world. That would be the only way they would ever have a chance to get to 6 million. I mean, we're talking about a paper chain that's almost, it's hundreds of miles long if you stretch it out from end to end.
Yeah, that's amazing. Gracey, how about you? Is there anything you slipped in there?
Yes. Sorry, the traffic outside's a little loud. But LALA'S WORDS is directly referencing the first neighborhood I lived in New York, Ridgewood. So most, if not all, of the buildings are directly drawn from real life. There's certain food spots that I really love that I did draw in there. An abandoned theater that is now, I believe, a Blink Fitness gym. One of those buildings. But I think I'll show this one, actually. There is a bus with a New York Public Library lion banner on the side. Yeah. The New York Public Library was a place of solace for me in my early years here. So I wanted to include that.
I love that. That's amazing. Jules Matthew 246 in the chat asks, did you always want to write for children, or did any of you fall into it accidentally? Was that, like, did you go into it like, this has to be for children and I want to write for children, or this is the story I have in my head and it just happens to fit for a younger audience?
Well, for me, I started writing really young. My first book was a school project, so I didn't set out to write a kid's book. But I was a kid, so I wrote what I thought was a pretty good book, and it turned out to be kind of a middle grade novel, just because I was, really kind of a middle grader when I wrote it. And but by that theory, my audience should have gotten more mature as I matured. Apparently, I did not mature. So I'm still mired in the middle grades.
And dinosaur poop, Shakirah, how about you?
Yeah, so 246, that's Barbados area code. So that is a Bajan person that just answered that question. Yeah, so for me, I did not have any plans to write for kids at all. I don't know why I never thought about doing it. I guess I was just distracted with other forms of storytelling. But then there was this competition that I wanted to enter. It was a kid lit writing competition, and I had 3 weeks to spare. So I was like, I could try to write a book. And this time I had no idea what I was doing, but I just absolutely fell in love with writing again. It just kind of reignited my passion for writing. And I was like, why did I take so long to get here? And, that book was the first draft of Josephine Against the Sea. So it's really because of that. Yeah. So it was a happy accident.
Wow. Gracey, how about you?
Yes, I would say it was more, I think like Gordon said, for me, I'm kind of writing stories that I would want to read myself. And I guess I'm still a child because I'm like, the best medium seems to be picture books. And I think I do like having images with the words. And so picture books is the way it is. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Because this is a birthday party for your books, and I really enjoy, I was looking at Josephine in the Sea and Against the Sea, and there is a wishing tree, correct?
Kind of.
Wishing tree in the book.
You should not cut into that tree. You never know what you may release. Okay, so I don't want to encourage people to do it.
I know. So it's like there's like the wishes you need to be careful for, but then there's birthday wishes. So imagine we are blowing out a birthday cake for your book. What would you wish for your book as it goes out into the world? What do you want people to take away from it? Let's start with Gracey.
I would like to hope that it brings people closer together, families, and just being able to create time and space for yourself to, practice self-love.
Lovely. Shakirah?
I think I just want people to find joy and thrill in the book and to kind of encourage a love for reading, because, when I was younger, there were not a lot of pleasure reading books for me that was about my own culture. So I just want people to finish read the book and just be excited to pick up another one.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
Gordon?
and strangely, Linked is probably the most sort of, message-oriented book I've ever written. But like, I don't want people. I mean, if the message you're getting out of it is swastikas equals bad, I'm kind of like, duh.
Yeah.
I'm hoping we
Let's
all
start
kind of
there.
figured that out before we picked out the book. But I think that I think what Linked also is a book that I hope encourages people to keep an open mind, to rethink what preconceived ideas they may have about things, but also a book about the possible. That everyday kids in an everyday school are capable of anything when they put their minds to it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you all for joining us for our first book party. I'm Connie, by the way. I forgot to introduce myself. That's fine. I'm the social media manager here at Scholastic, and we're really excited to start the series. And thank you three for being my first guest.
Thank you.
Yay!
LALA'S
Happy book
Words.
birthdays, you guys.
Yes,
Happy book
LALA'S
birthday to
Words,
you guys too.
Against the Sea are out now, and Linked will be out later this month on the 20th.
Yay!
Thank you, everyone who joined the live, and everyone who asked questions. Have a great afternoon, evening, wherever you are.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.